Hello, David.
Hi, Benjamin.
Nice to have you here as a healthcare professional.
Thank you.
Uh, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I hope you're ready to answer them.
Yeah.
Let us start. As global healthcare seems to be in the news more and more in recent years, talk about what global health is and why it's important to pay the attention to it.
Yeah. Thank you for that good question. I think global health refers to health issues and health problems that has transcend the national boundaries and reaches to a global level, whereby people on a global level deal with health issues, health problems to find solutions to that. And this is very, very important, and people should pay attention to it because when it becomes on a global level, it is very, very big. So, therefore, people should um, cooperate, put their strength together on a global health so as to find solutions to like identified health issues or health problems. That's why people should pay attention to global
All right.
health.
The second question, diseases can come to us in different ways. Should you please explain the difference between communicable and non-communicable diseases?
Yeah. Communicable diseases are the disease that can be transmitted from one person to another, and this can be done. A person can get a communicable disease through contact with a person who has such a kind of disease. It can be done. It can be uh, mm, contaminated through air. A person can get that communicable disease through air or some other kind of contacts with the person who has been contaminated. That's communicable disease.
Yeah.
We can here give an example of HIV/AIDS, of tuberculosis. Those are some kinds of disease that are communicable. And the non-communicable disease are those diseases that cannot be transmitted from one person to another. Here I can give an example of cancer.
Yeah.
I cannot transmit my cancer to you. That's an example of an uncommunicable disease.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's talk about Ebola. Since I'm sure most of our viewers have heard a lot of about that,
Yes.
what is it? Is it communicable or non-communicable? How do people get it?
So first, I would like to say that Ebola is a communicable disease because it can be transmitted from one person to another through contact or any other way. So Ebola has been first discovered in 1976 in near the river Ebola in Democratic Republic of Congo. That's why it is called Ebola. And this disease has different viruses that cause it. There are many. At least there are five viruses that virus species that cause Ebola.
There are more.
Yeah, there are quite more, and four of them they are the ones that cause the disease in the humans, but the other one caused the disease in non-human primates. Those species are there is what is called Zaire Ebola virus. There is what is called Sudan Ebola virus. There is um, another called Thai forest virus, and there is another called Bundibujo Ebola virus.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that cause. Those are the virus species that cause humans in the disease in the humans.
Yeah.
But there is another one called Reston, and that causes the disease in non-human primates. Yeah, that's what I can say about Ebola. But another thing and about how people can get it, people can get this disease by having a contact with someone who has been contaminated with Ebola, like the person who is suffering from it, and even a dead body of someone who has died due to Ebola. So a person is now able to get the disease.
Scary, man.
It's very scary.
Why do you What would raise a person's risks of getting Ebola?
There are two, like, if I can say, there are two things that can be considered as the major uh, things that can raise a person's risk to getting Ebola, and those are exposure to someone who has contaminated with Ebola, and again another thing that can raise someone risk to getting Ebola is to, like, touching or having contact with a dead body of someone who has been died due to Ebola.
Yeah. So, to prevent or at least lessen the risks of getting Ebola, what should people do?
Uh, what should people do is very simple. People should avoid to have any contact with someone who has been contaminated with Ebola, even the dead body of someone who has died due to Ebola. That's one. Second, people should put the people who has Ebola in quarantine for their special cares, and even preventing them from having contact with the people who have not yet getting that Ebola.
All right.
Yeah.
Outbreaks such as one related to Ebola can generate a lot of rumors and misinformation, and even panic about what the disease is, how is it transmitted, and how likely people are to get it. Should you please talk about the need of educating the people about facts and the myths about the disease?
Yeah. So this is a very, very interesting question, because there are some myths, and people have those misinformation about Ebola, and it's really good to educate them about that. So here I'm going to give you some examples of some myths and the facts that related to Ebola.
Yeah.
Uh, Many people have a myth of that says that Ebola can be spread through air and water. That's not true. The fact is that Ebola is spread through direct contact with someone who has that kind of disease, not in water or in air. Another myth that people have says that this Ebola has vaccination and medication that can cure it. Yet it's wrong. Ebola doesn't have any vaccination, even any medicine.
Yeah, really?
Yes, that's how it is. And another thing that people misunderstood is that people say that Ebola cannot be transmitted through sexual intercourse. That's a wrong perspective about Ebola. Since you have had a contact with someone who has Ebola, you have a high probability of getting Ebola. That's why saying that it can't be transmitted through sexual intercourse is not it's a myth.
Yeah.
And another myth that many people have is says that Ebola virus cannot survive outside, like outside the body, but Ebola virus can survive outside the body of a human being. It can survive, but not a long period of time, few days, but still it can survive.
Yeah.
So those are some myths and facts that are related to Ebola that many people are supposed to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, I found that I had some myths also.
Yeah.
uh,
Make sure that you now get the real information.
yeah, sure. The seventh question, we're about to reach to an end. The seventh question, how about the complications that Ebola raises for the rights of travelers and the responsibilities of governments? Kachi Hitchcocks, for example, and us from men, uh, who returned to the States following a trip to West Africa in the fall of 2014, promptly had the quarantine-related restrictions thrust upon her, restrictions that she was very much against. Briefly, describe the difficulty of balancing rights and governmental responsibility.
Yeah, that's a good question that is related to that situation that happened to that lady. And I would like to say that it's very tricky and very problematic to balance between individual rights and governmental responsibilities, because it is very tricky, because individuals want their rights to be obeyed and to be complied by the government. But when it comes to a serious issue such as Ebola, I think it is very, very good to consider government responsibilities than considering individual than obeying individual rights, because in that case government's responsibilities are there to protect the life of the whole population. So to put in quarantine one person for the reason of saving the life of the whole country, I think that would be justifiable. So in such a situation, it is very, very understandable that uh, government responsibilities uh, are the ones to be priority over the individual rights. Yeah.
Good. Let's talk about smoking and tobacco then, as the eighth question, uh, which is considered as a big world health problem and raises similar issues to Ebola in terms of rights and responsibilities. Just about everyone knows that smoking harms health. What does it do to the body?
Yeah, thank you for raising that question, because I think this is very helpful to people's health, because smoking is seen in different perspectives among people. But then we are not to forget that it has many, many negative consequences to our lives for people who smoke. Uh, what I can say about this is that tobacco and smoking harm different parts of the body. And first, it harms the brain, because tobacco contains what is called nicotine. That nicotine, when it reaches in the human body, specifically in the brain, it increases the level of dopamine, and that increase of dopamine, it's like activates this. Before I continue, dopamine is like it's a chemical that involved in mediating the desire to consume drugs. So when it is activated by nicotine, it leads the smoker to being addicted to smoking. So when the person is addicted, becomes addicted to smoking, there are many problems that goes with that in in relation to his or her brain.
Yeah.
And those are sleep disturbance, or even restless, depression, anxiety, craving. So those are some things that smoking do in our brain. And apart from the brain, the other parts of the body due to smoking are also attacked, like the lungs, like the heart. So due to smoking, people can get many diseases that are related to their respiratory system. Their lungs can get problems. They can have different heart diseases. They can even get diabetes. So those are some consequences that go with uh, tobacco and smoking.
Yeah, now I get the reason why people who always used to smoke are addicted and even always are in the hospitals for having the nurses. It's really scary. But moving towards the end, the ninth question, what about the second-hand smoke? Explain what this is and how it affects people.
Yeah. Second-hand smoke is a combination of the smoke that comes from the burning cigarette and the exhaled, the expired, the exhaled smoke. So that the combination of the two makes the second-hand smoke.
Yeah.
And this is very, very dangerous to people who don't smoke,
Yeah.
because when someone who is smoking exhales the smoke, and there is another smoke that coming from the burning cigarette, when when a person who doesn't smoke is exposed or is with the other person who is smoking, this is very, very dangerous to his life because it contains those nicotine and the other serious chemicals that can harm that person who doesn't smoke when he inhale that smoke.
Yeah.
And this is very, very dangerous for children because it can cause like the premature death or the infant death
Oh.
when a child is exposed to second-hand smoke. It can the child can have like asthma, even middle eye diseases. So those are some problems that can cause a child to have those diseases due to second-hand smoke. But even the adults, second-hand smoke can lead people to having different uh, problems like lung cancer, like coronary heart diseases. So those are some impacts that go with second-hand smoke in the children and in the adults.
Yeah. The last question, but not the least, people don't typically think that of tobacco as drug like heroin and cocaine, but the addiction it creates is strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
What should we think about tobacco use and a form of substance abuse?
Yeah, tobacco is of course a substance abuse because it becomes a substance abuse when the person is taking it on often on a regular basis and it becomes too much to in his body. When it becomes too much in him, that's why it becomes a substance abuse to the person's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so it is a substance it should be regarded as a substance abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then about addiction.
Yeah, the being abused goes with addiction. So when you are addicted to it, it becomes a substance abuse.
All right. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Benjamin.
Yeah, nice to have you.
Thank you.